Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology. And we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of January 29th to February 4th. Just a quick little reminder about a couple things. One, if you are interested in taking advantage of my discounted one-on-ones, be sure to do that. This is the last week to book those. So if you've never had a reading from me before, my 30-minute sessions are on special for $20. My 1-hour one-on-one specials are on sale for $35. I've even had some people like hit me up and like buy like that in bulk and do a bunch of gift certificates basically for themselves. And they're just saying like, I want to be able to have like one reading with you a month for like the next 6 months or the next amount of time. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we can do that too. So again, if you're wanting to book a session with me, this is the last week to be able to do that at that discounted price. Once we get to February 1st, which is Thursday, just a few days away, that pricing is going to go back up, just to be clear. Okay. I want to thank everybody again for that has been joining me on the one-on-ones, the live one-on-ones that I've been doing on Facebook. This week, I'm going to do it a little bit differently, paying attention to these transits. Super fun. We're going to get into those real quick. If you want to take advantage of Facebook Live one-on-ones where I do the mix of like astro and tarot for you, I'm going to do Monday evening and Thursday evening this week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So not Monday, Wednesday this time, but Monday, Thursday. Just kind of going over the transits and some of the energy that I was feeling this week. I felt like I needed to be a little bit more available on Wednesday. Plus, my mom has a procedure. And if she's not doing all that hot, then I want to make sure that I'm able to take care of her. So this week's Facebook Live one-on-ones, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday and Thursday. We're all on the same page. Okay. Oh, we had the full moon in Leo last week. And I said the full moon in Leo was meant to show us a light, show us a path, show us a trajectory. It was a beacon. It was a guide. It was giving us some level of connection as to where we can regain hope and how we can regain hope. But what I said last week is we would feel that full moon's energy for days because of how rapid the transits that followed. We are still feeling some of the energy tied to the full moon as we go into the first part of this week. So, what all followed that full moon in Leo? Well, that full moon in Leo was in a square to Jupiter, but it wasn't exact. The actual square to Jupiter went exact on Saturday. Another thing that happened on Saturday, right as that square to Jupiter was perfecting, Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, where the sun and Pluto are right now, Uranus turned direct. For many, many people, there has been an energy of this last week going into this week that we're going into that ties back to a couple of different timelines. And I said them last week. I'm going to recap them all here at once. Last summer, especially that last week of August going into September, that was the week that Uranus turned retrograde. That was the week that Jupiter turned retrograde. That was the week when the Venus retrograde ended. And that was the full moon in Pisces. That was a hellaciously emotional week. Hellaciously emotional. All of that went down within a 7-day span. Between roughly August 28th and September 4th. Because I want to say the 28th was the Uranus turn, and then the 30th was the full moon in Pisces. If I'm remembering all that correctly, it was like Monday to Monday. Other two timelines that kind of came through that was not based off of Uranus, but was actually based off of the Mercury-Mars conjunctions was late October and late December. October 28th and 29th, we had a full moon eclipse in Taurus. And then the very next day, we had our first Mercury-Mars conjunction. And it was in an opposition to Jupiter. Jupiter was a part of the transits this week. The second Mercury-Mars conjunction happened the week between December 25th and January 1st. It was that week of Christmas, that limbo week that we all have. It was specific to December 27th. Energies from a few different timelines all culminated back into what was going on last week. And many of us came back to certain decisions. We met up with certain people that we hadn't seen since that time. We were reluctant. We had some type of energy before where we lost hope, where we didn't feel like we had support. We didn't feel like certain things were going on for a certain period of time. And now, little by little, as we have gone through this last week and into this next week, we are going to start to recognize these final little areas of purge that need to be relieved from us, so that way we can finally start to move towards where we're going to have our next area of gains. Last week, this week that we're going into, and actually the week after. These 3 weeks, we will become very, very aware of these final areas where we need to purge, let go, outgrow, release, and come to terms with certain things. If you have not been feeling the need to purge anything, then it's not about purge. It's about finding peace. Because we're waiting for everyone else to catch up with us. Some of us have been feeling super chill for a while. I'm not being an asshole by saying that. I'm just being honest, because some people, whenever I talk to you, you're like, I haven't had an energy of purge, but there is an energy of where you need to start taking steps forward. And those first few steps that we've had in the month of January have been a little wonky. They've been very, very slow moving. It hasn't quite gone the way that we wanted to. Some things were kind of met with confusion because we had little things that needed to be worked out first. But we're about to be very, very much more aware of where our solid focus is going to be. And part of what just occurred in the last few days was pushing us to make a certain decision. Now, for some of us, this decision we've been dealing with for quite some time. It's been lingering. It's been in our heart, our mind, our soul, and we haven't been willing to pull the trigger. For other people, whenever that pulling of the trigger has just occurred or is about to occur, they are going to be met unexpectedly. Or at least they're going to pretend that it's unexpected. Why would you do this now? Why would you think this now? Why would you be done now? Why would you want to do this now? You've been dealing with my laissez-faire bullshit of not wanting to grow up or not wanting to take responsibility or not wanting to do certain things for so long. Why would you make a change now? I said that full moon in Leo was in a quincunx to Saturn. And we are either going to be aware of something that we no longer wish to have responsibility of. We are going to be aware that we can take steps forward because we are not responsible for something anymore. Or we're going to take steps forward knowing that we will no longer be supported by or be supportive of another situation. And little by little, as the weekend has progressed, there has been more addressing of that lack of responsibility area where we no longer wish to be responsible or they have not been willing to accept responsibility. All of the energy is in Saturn signs. Venus is in Capricorn, Mercury is in Capricorn, Mars is in Capricorn, Pluto is in Aquarius, the sun is in Aquarius. There's a very big energy towards understanding where we need to be responsible or the lack thereof. Now we have a lot of lingering energy from the full moon in Leo and from the weekend that is carrying into Monday, that is carrying us into this next week. Some of this I covered in last week's Week Ahead episode. Some of this I covered in the Full Moon in Leo episode. So you got to kind of pay attention to where I was at. The Mercury-Mars conjunction was the third one. And it was happening in a trine to a newly direct Uranus. Again, some of the decisions, communication, and the things that we talked about this weekend, or are in the process of talking about over this weekend, even while I'm recording, taking us into Monday, some of the energy tied to this weekend is very much still going into Monday. That full moon in Leo was in a square to Jupiter, but that was not exact. It took a few days for that sun square to Jupiter to go exact. But whatever came to light, whatever lessons that was had, whatever conversations that we were having with somebody that was either making us consider new hope or consider a situation, the person that was teaching us in the moment, there was also an energy towards support in that regard. Because immediately upon the sun square to Jupiter, Venus hit a trine to Jupiter. And both of those are still active as we go into Monday. So there's a big lingering energy from the weekend. The decisions that were made, the things that came through, the arguments that were had, the tensions that occurred, the accidents, if we had some type of road rage incident, because I already had people message me about car things, and I'm so sorry. Whatever it was is carrying us into Monday. I laugh. It's like a nervous laugh sometimes, but y'all also know that I laugh at myself because I'm the first one that admits when I fall on my face. That is what it is. Okay. Let's get into Monday. Monday, January 29th. What I explain on Monday, this first part of what I'm about to explain on Monday, for some people, this is going to happen Monday morning. For other people, this is still a part of late Sunday evening because of the timeline of the transits. So some of us are going to have a late night on Sunday because we're trying to get through some type of information. And whatever this information is going to be very, very tangible, very, very grounded. There is a strategy involved. For some people, there's going to be something, again, unexpected. An unexpected turn, an unexpected finding, an unexpected breakthrough that leads to another set of events and another set of turmoil. So whatever the hell has been going on is not done. Good, bad, or ugly. If you had a good full moon and a good weekend, I'm happy for you. Me too, babies. But I have been on the phone and on Zooms doing immediate, like one-on-one, sometimes up until like 1 o'clock in the morning with some of you guys this weekend. So I know it's not been fun, sun, and daisies for everybody. So let's talk about what's carried over from the weekend. Venus is still in her trine to Jupiter. That went exact on Sunday. Mercury, Mars are still in their conjunction. That went exact on Saturday. Now Mercury is leaving its trine with Uranus. That went exact on Sunday. But Mars is entering a trine with Uranus. This will actually go exact late on Monday. So again, whatever energies have been going on, not done, not done, not done. Okay. Between 2 and 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, we have a slew of interconnected events. Between 2 and 4 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to trine Mars. Between 3 and 5 a.m., Uranus is going to trine the moon. This is why I have this all at this one point. And then between 4:30 and 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon in Virgo, in Mercury sign, is going to trine Mercury. Now, I'll be super clear. Again, some of us just told somebody this weekend, we're done. I'm done waiting. I'm not doing this way anymore. We've had to deal with some level of action. We've been trying to get something worked out. And the thing is if you have been in the situation where you have finally told somebody that you are done, you need to be very, very aware that the other person, whether you have done something wrong or not, is going to feel slighted. And they're going to start to look through stuff, trying to find something, whether it's there or not. I dealt with this whenever I separated in my divorce. And I have coached a bunch of people through this exact same situation this weekend. So I am saying this on the podcast. If that final Mercury-Mars conjunction has led to a mental arrival that we are going to make a separation, and they are damn well surprised by it because of the trine to Uranus, and Uranus just turned direct, please anticipate they're going to look through your stuff, whether there's something there or not. Now, not all of us are dealing with the rough things, so I'm being very fair about that. Some of us are going to be having to deal with something with our cars. That again was unexpected. We're going to have to take certain actions, take it to the shop. We're having to get some quotes. The thing about cars, and if we had the road rage incident or if we had something else this week, I actually have to do this for a whole organic reason. And this week I'm getting car insurance quotes. Many of us are going to be taking sudden actions to get something tangibly turned around, corrected, changed. So it's not all negative. And some of us can be on the computers late on Sunday, or some of us can be making these calls early on Monday to get those strategic things done. But not everybody's doing strategy. Some people are having to deal with certain situations. We're having to deal with certain actions. And I'm being super clear about this. We have a very continued set of energy that is taking us into Monday. And it's not going to be all fun and games for everybody. Now, again, this energy here is a continuation of whatever the hell happened over the weekend. And it is felt the most between 2 and 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. So some of us are having a late night on Sunday. Some of us are getting up really early on Monday because we have shit to get done. And that's okay. After this tangible trine, because it is very tangible, we're going to get into the evening. And this is where I feel like if you have just had somebody go through your stuff, whether you did something or not, I do feel like we can get to a point on Monday evening to where we have to deal with some combativeness. We get approached by somebody like accusing us of lies. And this is where I have this feeling that this can kind of come through. This is going to happen very simultaneous, just like the stuff that was happening in the overnight hours of Sunday going into Monday. And for some people, this is going to be super like fun actions. We're inspired to do something. We want to try something we've never tried before. And we're trying to do something hopeful, something inspirational, something that's going to be entertaining, something that's inspiring, something that just kind of captures our senses, some type of activity that seems spontaneous. And that's a real positive way to deal with Sunday night. Go watch a Monday Night Raw. I always love wrestling. So we're doing something like that. And that's okay. However, some of us are going to deal with the negative sense. The moon is still in Mercury's sign. And since the moon has been in Virgo, I have said whatever the heck is going on with this Mercury-Mars conjunction is going to be speaking through this moon in Virgo. And this can be an addressing of, I think you've been lying to me. I think you've been cheating on me. I think you've been doing certain things. You can be searching for things the last few days and you find something that feels very fraudulent. You find something that feels like a lie. And we have some level of addressing the action. And it's not just because of the moon's opposition to Neptune that I feel like There can be an action. It is because this is also whenever Mars is in this trine to Uranus, a newly direct Uranus. We've just had sudden things that were spoken about, sudden turnarounds in certain people's energies, sudden things that was for some people very, very exciting and very, very motivating. For other people, it's something else. And I need people to be aware, whatever has just gone on these last few days, again, it's still lingering into Monday. For some of us, it's good energy, it's strong energy, it's capable energy. For other people, it's going to be a moment of confusion. It's going to be a moment of speculation, of accusations. Some people will get caught. Some of us, you've been lying all weekend. You just told a lie at the wrong time and you got caught immediately. And this is getting caught in the act. Be aware of whatever your energies are. Now, after the moon's opposition to Neptune, the moon is going to go void. So whatever is going on as we get into this later part of the evening on Monday is kind of the way it's going to continue throughout the rest of the evening. So again, if we're in a good vibe with certain people, then this is like a continued energy of just like inspiring and doing something that captures the imagination and captures the senses and feels really entertaining. But if we're dealing with the tensions and the fighting, I warn you, we might be fighting all evening, and that's not any fun. Okay. Now, after the moon leaves Virgo, it's going to be Tuesday. So we're going into Tuesday. The moon is going to leave Virgo and go into Libra at 2:05 a.m. Central Standard Time. Now, as soon as the moon goes into Libra, the moon is going to hit a trine with Pluto. Something has recently been triggered. The thing about that full moon is that sun was still very, very close to Pluto. We were just past certain things coming to light and being discovered and coming to the surface. There's some element here of understanding new fears, new power struggles, new change, new transformation, new capturing of personal power. Because some of us are dealing with very positive things with Pluto. So not everything is about the worst thing in the world. Now, there's something very interesting to me about once the moon goes into Libra. And that is, I feel like as that moon in Libra continues, there's going to be a lot of challenges that kind of come through. And people are really going to deeply feel whether they've been slighted or not. There's going to be some type of like energy towards actions and reactions and not wanting to accept the lack of support, the lack of responsibility, not wanting to accept reality. And I do feel like once the moon goes into Libra, there's a whole different level of busyness in the air because now we have both the sun and the moon in air signs. So there's something about what has recently transpired that is starting to have a different level of buildup. But whatever this buildup is, whatever is being spoken about has a long-term effect. Because again, we're going into a lot of these Aquarius transits. Okay. The moon is going to trine Pluto between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So again, here's the moon, 0 degrees. Here's Pluto, 0 degrees. We are in the process of something transitioning and starting, and we're aware of this. We're aware of these changes. As we go throughout the day, remember Mars and the trine to Uranus, it's still active. They're separating. Venus and her trine with Jupiter, still active, but separating. So we still have some elements of a lingering effect that hasn't gone away. Okay. We're going to keep this going, and we're going to get into the afternoon going into the evening. Okay. The moon is going to enter a square with Venus. Now, this is actually right around 8:30 to 10:30 that we're going to feel this the most. So we're just now starting it as the moon hits this 9-degree mark and hits this square to Jupiter. But what I think is interesting is as this square to Venus is building up, the moon is going to quincunx both Saturn and Jupiter. We're struggling. And there can be, what I kept feeling and hearing whenever I was meditating on some of these transits is like some people are going to really feel like when the moon is in Libra that they have not been treated fairly. I blended fair and treated just then and said feeded. I'm sorry. Sorry. We do not want to accept that support has been removed. We do not want to accept that we have not been responsible. And there can be this energy of wanting to push blame onto other people. Because why would I want to be responsible for my own actions? This is your fault. You're not supportive of me. You haven't been helping me. You haven't done things for me. You haven't tried helping me or been this for me or something along these lines. And many of us are going to struggle with being this responsible person in this situation. Now, Venus is in Capricorn, and this is the first time that we've had a hard aspect to Venus from Libra since the South Node has been in Libra. And again, I maintain that we are coming into an energy of understanding, like a final round of like purge and letting things go and getting things off of our plate. And this timeline really speaks to that. And I'm talking about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the moon in Libra timeline. The moon is going to square Venus. There is this push and this questioning, testing, challenging. Why don't we see eye to eye anymore? Why would you act this way? Why are you removing your support? That's not usually the word that we're hearing. Trying to understand the loss in faith, the loss in hope, the loss in the beliefs. Again, that final purge. Some of us are seeing the underbelly of somebody and like the karma involved, and it's like solidifying even more our stance. Because the thing about all of these energies in Capricorn is like we don't necessarily want to accept less than what we feel like we're worth. I can feel that here. There's so much of this energy that requires a serious understanding. And there is going to be elements of not wanting to accept imbalance. Because not only is the sun entering a square with Venus, but the sun is entering a trine. I'm sorry, the moon is squaring Venus, but the moon is also entering a trine with the sun. So again, where things have not been fair, where people are feeling slighted, pushing and challenging the decision, the loss of hope, the loss of support. Some of us are going to be telling people things that they've never heard before. It's not necessarily that it's the person that we just, separated from or we just pushed away from. Some of us are going to be in this energy of enlightening another person. And this can be a lot more of an easier tone for where we're going next. We're enlightening people to understand and believe in something they've never believed in before, that they've never taken seriously before. They've got questions about an area that they've never had the chance to be a part of. And this level of imbalance has a whole different level of understanding. It can be a whole different level of peace. And again, for a lot of people, it's trying to understand something that they've never had time to understand before. Are they going to have a full understanding of everything in the positive sense as we get into this evening? Not necessarily. But there is a questioning. There is a challenging. There's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of things that we need help with. Some of us, we're going to be asking a more responsible person. We're going to be asking for somebody's experience. We're going to be talking to the elder. We're going to be trying to get some level of clarity from somebody that has been in a similar situation, but they have gotten through it. They have gotten past it. They have survived it. They have dealt with this before. And maybe their situation isn't the same as yours, but maybe it was. Many of us are suddenly in a place where we've never been before. And that moon in Venus's sign, squaring Venus, speaks to needing help in a way that it can be easily understood, and it can help bridge over certain pieces of imbalance. Because again, not only is the moon squaring Venus, but the moon is in a trine to the sun. So we can start to move towards understanding and gain more information and process more information. It might not be all in the single moment. It might take us a few days to really comprehend and take some time to dive into something. But there's something there. Now, the moon's trine with the sun, it's actually super late. So that goes the most exact between 11 p.m. on Tuesday and is even going all the way until 1 a.m. on Wednesday. So it's actually a big part of our like transition into Wednesday. When we get into Wednesday, we need to be very, very aware of the body. What feels right, what feels wrong, what feels good to our heart, our soul, our spine, our gut. There's something very much about the physical body that is coming through. And I don't mention every time the moon hits a conjunction to the south node or the north node, but I am this time because we just had Venus and Mercury square the nodes. And when the moon comes into that conjunction to the south node, Mars is still arguably in the square. So I want to get this to right around, let's see, the moon's conjunction to the south node is between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then the moon is going to hit a square to Mars between 7 and 9. There can be something that we become aware of, something that we can feel. We can suddenly have a gut check reaction. We can suddenly feel just something is off. Or we hear something that as soon as we hear it, it's unexpected and it's just like it just sits wrong in the body. But there's something very, very much about our intuition and what's going on in the body when it comes to the 31st. If it feels wrong, it's about to be wrong. If it feels right, it's about to be right. If it feels like there's more to the story, then there's more to the story. Pay very big attention to what's going on in your intuition and in your body. For the rest of the week, part of that's because of we're getting closer to this Mercury-Neptune sextile. That's going to have its own set of energies. But when it comes to this moon south node, something very much about the body. And there is a continuation of certain energies because, again, the moon is going to square Mars. Right as the moon is entering its square with Mars, the moon is also going to go through a quincunx with Uranus. So again, we've got this energy of like some of what's going on, something that hasn't felt right, has put us in some level of energy of like not being understand a recent change, not feeling supported, hearing something that feels so wrong, and we don't have the ability to support a situation. We don't necessarily agree with somebody's decisions. We don't want to necessarily deal with somebody's drama at the moment. And there can be some kind of energy that has a bit of a buildup to it as we get into Wednesday evening. And with that moon square to Mars, it can make some people very reactive, argumentative, combative, and frustrated. If we had been a little bit more into like the quarter moon and a little, if we hadn't just had such a slew of events since the full moon and we were past the quarter moon, I wouldn't feel this way. But the way this is kind of laying out, this still feels like we're dealing with the lingering effect. This still feels like we're dealing with the stuff that we've been going through for days. And it feels like one more action or reaction, because again, there's something that feels like it's out of balance. It feels like we don't want to agree. It feels like we're being resistant to a change. And because we don't want this change, we're going to take some type of action, or we are reacting to this recent situation. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of energy. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of resistance that I don't feel like we really get out of until after the moon goes through Scorpio. There's a lot of busyness going on. We're unwilling. We're unstable. We're frustrated. There's heat. There's a lot going on here, a lot of mental energy and a lot of questioning of responsibility, questioning of recent changes and sudden changes. Because again, Uranus is still at the same spot Wednesday evening that he was whenever he turned direct Saturday. Nothing's changed when it comes to the Uranian energy. So we're still dealing with the suddenness. And again, some people are going to be hearing and finding out about these actions that they're in that moment not willing to accept. They do not understand. They're not a part of it in some way. They're not on board with it in some way. That's okay. Try not to lean into the arguments. Try not to lead into the tension. We feel that moon square to Mars the most exact between 7 and 9, but we're kind of feeling it all the rest of the evening. And this again kind of takes us into where we're going to go on Thursday. Now, I feel like once we get into parts of Thursday, some area will kind of calm down, but not at first. It's kind of going to come down to like exactly when the moon goes into Scorpio for you. Okay. Now we're into Thursday. Between 2 and 4 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to square Mercury. Mercury's just starting to separate from Mars. We're just about hitting our 3-degree mark, but we did just have that moon square to Mars the night before. So this can be a final communication or a sharp mental focus, an internal signal of some sort, an internal signal of clarity. Some of us are kind of struggling with understanding how somebody could act or react a certain way. You know, we're communicating something that feels almost unbelievable. Why do I say that? Because while the moon is squaring Mercury, the moon is in a quincunx to Neptune. There's some element that has not made sense, that we haven't been willing to accept as a truth or a lie. Like there's some element that is just very, very clouded. But I think part of it is clouding the intuition right now because there's so much like speculation. With Mercury's sextile to Neptune, our minds are very, very busy. And this doesn't actually go exact until Friday. So a big portion of this energy that's kind of coming through is like we need to be very in tune with our intuition. And if somebody says something like, oh, well, I don't know why you would think that way, like that just seems absurd. It's only absurd to them because they don't understand what you're feeling. They don't understand what you've gone through. They don't understand the reaction. They don't understand. Lean into your intuition. And if your mind is struggling to shut off, that would not surprise me. Some of us are going to be talking to somebody and we're going to be hearing something that just, we cannot believe it. We're struggling to understand, or we're going to learn about something that we didn't know before. And it still feeds into like, we don't necessarily want to believe it, but it's just one of those things that it takes us a minute to process. There is a sharpened mental focus that kind of starts to come through. Now, after the moon square with Mercury, when it comes to Thursday, this is when the moon goes void. There's no more direct transits. So this can kind of feel like things start to slow down. And we get into the earlier parts of Thursday, and there's just not as many things going on. We still feel certain things, but it's not necessarily happening in that moment. And once things kind of start to wind down, it's going to lead us into where we can start to process what's been going on below the surface. And that's when the moon goes into Scorpio. It's very rare for people to sit here and go, yay, moon in Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio rising. I'm great with the moon in Scorpio. Let's be real. Not everybody likes the moon in Scorpio. I'm good with it. The moon goes into Scorpio at 2:37 p.m. Central Standard Time. And as soon as the moon goes into Scorpio, it hits a square to Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius. The moon is in Pluto's sign. Pluto is said to be exalted in Aquarius. It's very empowered here. The moon is in Pluto's sign. We start to process something, but this processing is not audible. It's not tangible. It's emotional. We start to really process what has gone on around us, but now below the surface, we start to talk about what's been going on behind the scenes, what's been going on in areas that we do not know. We are going to start to question where the previous power struggles have been in the negative sense, if they're negative. For some people, just questioning and getting it off your chest is healing. But we are starting to question, examine, observe, talk about, process things that are going on underneath the surface, things that have been going on behind the scenes. We're able to discuss recent trauma, recent events. We want to understand. But if we're in the positive, because some people are dealing with positive energy with Pluto now in Aquarius, the moon square to Pluto is a recognition of a personal power, a recognition of personal strength, of a change, of a transformation. There's something that is recognized, that is seen, that is observed, that is felt. And it really comes down to, one, what all has gone on these last few days. And two, I do feel like be aware of what happened January 19th and 20th, whenever the sun was going through that conjunction to Pluto. Because for some people, if we haven't been in a forward motion the entire few days, this can trigger just deep-seated fears and wounds that have absolutely nothing with the last few days. It's just triggering an insecurity. And that's a big possibility too. All in all, I like the moon in Scorpio this go around. I feel like the moon in Libra is a lot more hectic than the moon in Scorpio, but I feel like whatever has gone on has some level of emotional processing that needs to occur. And I feel like it's specific to the Scorpio timeline. And I also feel like that's when things are going to start to wind down, because that's whenever we're going to get into our last quarter moon. Now, that's not on the first, that actually goes exact on the second, but it's a big portion of the energy. Okay. Now, the other thing that's going on again all day, Mercury is entering a sextile to Neptune that doesn't actually go exact until the 2nd. So I'm going to get us into the 2nd because there's going to be some things that kind of happen in the overnight hours of Thursday into Friday that, again, for some people, it's going to manifest really, really late Thursday going into Friday. So the late hours, or it's going to be a part of our early morning energy whenever we wake up on Friday. So couple things going on between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is going to trine Saturn. Support, understanding, the responsible decision, emotional timing, emotionally responsible, the weight of emotional responsibility, talking to an elder, talking to the authority figures, talking to someone about some of the things that have just occurred, getting some additional input. Now there's some extra layers to this, and that's why I left it at 3:30 right here, because the moon is going to hit its opposition to Jupiter. Now this actually goes the most exact between 4:30 and 6:30 a.m. So I'm going to bump this one more hour. Here's the moon, 7 degrees, 1 minute. It's still very much in the trine with Saturn. It's entering its opposition to Jupiter. And at this moment, Mercury, 25 degrees, 47 minutes, you can see this right here, is entering its exact sextile to Neptune. Again, intuition, whatever you've been feeling going on, you've been feeling something the last few days going on in the body, if you've been feeling something kind of coming to the surface, then this energy can be where something we've been feeling kind of coming through, speculating in some way, is going to result in a tangible, solid connection, agreement, responsible agreement, authoritative agreement. I said at the beginning of the week, one of the things that I'm going to be doing this week organically is that I'm going to be getting auto insurance quotes. My goal is by Friday to have the fucking insurance thing figured out because I don't know who I'm going with yet. Until that point, I'm waiting on quotes, and it's speculative. You see how I say it that way? There's some area where we are trying to capture something, understand something, but a full, solid, responsible decision has not been made. Super mundane, super simple. For other people, there's a chance encounter, a lucky run-in, a hopeful interaction. There's something that can be very, very helpful in the moment. Luck is on your side. It really kind of comes down to what Scorpio and Taurus and Pisces and Capricorn, what all these are ruling in your chart, because there's a lot of emotion, Scorpio, Pisces, but a lot of tangible and earthy things and solid things, Capricorn and Taurus. So for some people, there is hopeful connection, romantic connection, considerations, again, luck, responsible decisions, responsible communication. Some of us have been speculating about something all week, and we get to the end of the week and we make a solid decision in the moon's opposition to Jupiter. Some of us were working through things tied to medicine, and we've been trying to figure something out all week. Let's get something, try it out. Let's make a decision. And we get to a point that we do make a decision, and we're able to find the new pharmacist, get something worked out in regards to that. The thing about Jupiter is sometimes it can be the teacher, the doctor, the guru, the nurse. There, whenever you have both Neptune and Jupiter in those transits simultaneously, there can be something tied to the immune system and medicines and reactions. So be aware of those types of things, because there can be a very big medicinal health aspect to the later part of the week, especially right here. The moon, Saturn, moon, Jupiter, Mercury, Neptune timeline. Again, this is all happening in the overnight hours. So we're going to feel it the most exact between 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time and 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So a good 4-hour block. So be aware of those types of things. Again, for some people, we're going to be dealing with a lot of things the night before, emotional, responsible understanding, trying to make something tangibly clear, trying to have more communication or conversation about an area where we have been previously foggy or clouded. Some of us are going to be getting a lot of inspirational energy, and that is great. Whenever we have this moon hitting Jupiter and Saturn simultaneously, it's very much about time and karma and boundaries and rules. And some of us are going to be setting some new ground rules, quite literally. And that's okay. Considering how the rest of the day is going to go, please pay attention to how I said that, because there can be the setting in of new ground rules, especially as we get into the evening. So I'm going to get this to about 4:30. Okay. We got two things simultaneously going on right here. One, the moon is squaring the sun. This is our quarter moon. The other thing that's going on is the moon is in a sextile to Venus. You can see this is going on right here. Venus is in Saturn's sign. Venus is getting closer to squaring the nodes, but not quite yet. But whenever it comes to quarter moons, the quarter moon, the last quarter moon, usually starts to take the angst and anxiety out of the energy, and we start to wind down. We're going to start to wind down. The deeper understanding of long-term changes, the tension of the week will start to settle. More likely, we're going to start to discuss some deeper desires, deeper groundedness, deeper effects, the need for emotional understanding. And I feel like we're going to be a lot more in tune with our emotions and trying to get something voiced and understood and cared for as we go through the days versus the ego. I feel like we have a lot less ego in these days. The sun is in Aquarius. We can talk about where we've been feeling things have been wrong for a long time. The moon is in Scorpio. The level of depth is unreal whenever it comes to Scorpio. But it's not just the depth in the moment, it's what's been going on for so long, the way we have felt for so long, the way that things have been going for so long. Venus is in Capricorn. Saturn sign, age and elders and responsibility. This very much speaks to setting new ground rules. Mercury is still in that sextile to Neptune. So there's some areas where we have some ability to communicate and create new rules, new communication, where we've had an energy towards speculation and confusion earlier in the week that has led to reactive energy. Now I feel like we can be a lot less reactive and we can actually talk a lot more tangibly. We can get a lot better answers to the things that we're not clear about. This week has had a lot of energy, but when I say, I feel like once we get to Friday, some people really start to settle their shit. And I know I'm cussing a lot, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of people that's exactly the words they need to hear. People are gonna start to settle their shit. Okay. Now, the moon, Venus, moon, sun energy that we're in right here, this goes the most exact between 3 and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So this kind of sets the energy for what we'll be dealing with throughout the rest of Friday. Some people are going to have a lot of mental energy. Some people are going to need something that kind of captures their imagination. And that can be a big part of what we start to get into late on Friday and going into Saturday. Sometimes the only way you can get out of the funk of whatever has gone on is to distract yourself. mindless scrolling, sometimes picking a show on TV and just binging it. But I do feel like once we get into parts of the weekend, that's going to be a big part of where our mind goes. So let's get into Saturday. We're going to get into first things first. So between 3 and 5 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit its opposition to Uranus. And Uranus just moved off the 5-minute mark all week, 19 degrees, 5 minutes. Now we get to this point, Uranus is starting to move. There can be something about the recent sudden changes that we're talking about. There can be some type of thing going on beyond, below the surface that is tied to this energy. For some people, it's just going to be a sudden communication. It's going to be something unexpected. You get a sudden email. You're getting something digitally, something right there that has an electronic interaction. For some people, it can be a little bit exciting. For other people, just, again, it's that unexpectedness, temporary, serious mindset. Because not only that is right after the moon's opposition to Uranus, is the moon is going to hit a sextile to Mars. You get an unexpected call or text message first thing in the morning going, hey, you want to go get some breakfast? Hey, you want to have brunch? Hey, you want to do this with me today? I'm going to go to this garage sale. I'm going to go to the flea market. I'm going to go to this. Something that you don't have on your agenda. You don't have on your plan. But again, we need a mental distraction. Still in the energy. The moon is going to sextile Mars. Simultaneously, the moon is going to go into a trine with Neptune. Mercury has been in a sextile to Neptune for the last few days. We need to do something that gets us out of our funk, gets us out of our shell, gets us into a different mindset, and captures our attention in a different way. It's a big part of the energy here. The moon's sextile to Mars. The moon is in Mars' sign. Yeah, let's go. I'm down. You want to go on a road trip today? You want to go do something weird? Yeah, I'm totally down. Let's go do something. I don't care. Get me out of the freaking house. Get me away from this person. Give me something to do. Hey, come with me. I know you've had a rough week. Let's go do this thing. Let's go try this. Let's go somewhere. Come on. Some of us were the one coercing the other person. Okay. Now, whenever the moon hits the trine to Neptune, I really like this energy. There's a desire to do something out of the norm. We need something entertaining. We need something imaginative. We need something to capture the senses. We need to do something that's kind of fun that we've never done before, that in the moment it's just like we're trying to catch on as it's going on. Going to an auction is like the greatest thing that I can think of right now. Is if you've never been to an auction before, like the very first time that you go, or going to the bingo hall and you've never actually been in a bingo hall before, it's like feeling that energy and seeing everything in the moment and seeing how the activity goes and trying to learn as the process is happening. Super fun energy. We need something that distracts us. We need something that breaks us away from everything else that has gone this last week. Some of us know we're going somewhere for the first time. We know we're going to go to a show. We know we're going to go to the movies. We know we're going to turn our stuff on Do Not Disturb, not answer the door, and just binge watch something on Netflix all day. But we need something that completely captures the imagination and floods our senses. We need something different going into next weekend. That's okay. Do that. Do something out of the norm. Go somewhere you would never normally go. Go enjoy the moment and get your head out of the situation. You need that temporary distraction. Okay. Now the moon, between 8 and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to sextile Mercury. There's this deep understanding that something is changing, that something is ending, that something is going to require some level of action. And I want to be absolutely clear about something when it comes to this weekend. I do feel like there is an ending in many ways for some people this weekend. Now, how big or small that is, it is what it is. I'm changing car insurance. One policy ends, a new one begins. What do you got to do? You got to put all the freaking documentation everywhere. You got to be prepared for stuff like that. If you have a lien on your car, you have to do extra work, send the new insurance to the bank and all that. I don't have that issue, but it's just an example. So some of us are we know we're transitioning and we're doing something for the last time and we're doing something different. We know. And that's not meant to be a horrible thing. Some of us, we get out of our funk, we go do something fun, we go hang out with our girlfriend, we go to the flea market, we go to the junkin, we go to the auction, we go do whatever it is we do to go distract ourselves throughout Saturday, because we know we have to take a certain action on Sunday. We know something's about to hit. And I mean it when I say, for a lot of people, when it gets to parts of this weekend, there will be something that comes to an end. For some people, the human effect is it's going to be Saturday. For other people, it might be the Monday following. For a lot of people, there's some weird energy to Sunday. It can be hopeful. It can be helpful. It's supposed to be. Because whenever we get into Sunday, the moon's going to go into Sagittarius. And that's literally 12:28 a.m. Central Standard Time. So just after midnight, moon goes into Sagittarius. Boom. What is the moon doing? It immediately hits a sextile to Pluto. We've just had the last few days of the moon being in Pluto's sign. So we get to this energy and we're feeling a little bit hopeful that we can deal with the fear, deal with the trauma, deal with those things that have been going on under the surface the last few days. What's gone on the last 10 days? The moon is in Jupiter's sign. I love the moon in Sag because I always feel like it's got a hopeful, fun, boastful energy. But the way this is going to continue on Sunday, this is the last day of Mercury in Capricorn. When a planet goes to change signs, there's usually something that instigates an ending. And whenever the planet goes into a new sign, there's usually the arrival of something new, a new beginning of something. And how big or small it is can kind of, be indifferent for everybody. I feel like many of us are very, very aware that something's about to come to a close. And we're either going to make a communication towards that's going to have an action later, or we're going to have some level of indifference as we go through the day on Sunday. So I'm going to get this to the mid-afternoon. 12:30. Yeah, that's fine. What I explain next, transit-wise, goes the most exact basically between noon and 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's when it's the most exact. Mercury will leave Capricorn real late in the evening. It's 11:11 exact. I can't even joke about that. That's when Mercury is going to leave Capricorn. It's 11:11 Central Standard Time. So we're dealing with something in this moment for the very last time. And we got a couple things going on. One, the moon is in a square to Saturn. Simultaneously, the moon is in a quincunx to Jupiter, but the moon and Saturn are both in Jupiter's sign. It is time to address, to take an action, to deal with something, an understanding where we no longer have support, where we no longer have certain things, where we're no longer able to see eye to eye. There's a coldness with certain people. There's a coldness in certain conversations and certain reactions. There can be something here that really much can come through in both direct ways and indirect ways. It's very interesting. And even if I go into some of the other transits, like the moon is also going through an Antiscia with Mars at this moment, while the moon is in that square to Saturn. Mars is in Saturn's sign. The moon is in conjunct Jupiter. For a lot of people, I feel like we're going to start to deal with consequences of actions. We fucked around, we found out. We are very much feeling the loss of support We are addressing what actions we need to take moving forward. We are addressing who's responsible for what areas are going to be dealt with. We are questioning the elders. We're questioning the authority figures. We're being questioned by an elder or an authority figure. And it, again, there's something very emotionally cold in this moment. It's not meant to be this way this entire time. But some of the actions that are about to persist, we know we're closing something out. We know we're not communicating the same way anymore. We know we're not in the same mindset anymore. We know we're doing something for the last time. And it's almost like coming to pick up your shit. You know, you need to let them in to get their stuff, but you got extra people there to, you know, make sure everything goes okay. You know that this is a familiar place for you, but it's not your place anymore. Some people are going to be asking questions or asking for aid in an area that, again, they don't understand, and it's going to lead to some additional action. So for some people, this can be hopeful. Some people are going to be wanting to do certain things and take certain actions in almost like a leap of faith energy, and that's okay. But there's something really, really hinky to Sunday that I feel like a lot of people are going to be met with indifference. They're going to be met with frustration, that the communication is going to be very, very cold. We understand what put us here. We understand how we got to this point. Some of us will want to take a risk, a hopeful risk in the more positive light. And we get some type of input. We feel like it's time to take something. But some of us are going to feel like it's time to let something go. It's a very, very interesting energy. And I do feel like it's the energy, not so much the transits. So much of the transits are very indirect. The most direct transit that's going on here is the moon's square to Saturn and Mercury's last day in Capricorn. Saturn rules Capricorn, so there was a questioning, challenging, observing. But that quincunx to Jupiter. This is all happening in Jupiter signs anyways. There's a challenge of the lack of support. There's a challenge in an awareness of what has been lost, of what is no longer there, where we no longer have support. And it's going to lead to more things. I think it's going to be a big portion, whatever happened these last few days of January, is going to be a big portion of where we start to become very, very aware of long-term adjustments, long-term changes, and long-term energy that's going to be playing out throughout the rest of February. Because that is where a lot of this is going to start to really make sense, is whenever we get into February. January was about momentum. It was about picking up speed. It was about getting into step. It was about putting something into alignment. It was about getting somewhere. But some of that somewhere and that alignment energy had a bit of a disruption to it. Whether it's been chaotic disruption or pivotal disruption, that's Mars no matter what. That's the way I always describe him. It's still disruption. But some of us need that disruption. We're feeling in tune with it. We're feeling good with it. And we're marching with that momentum, and we're moving just as fast as the planets will allow us to progress. For other people, you've been blinded by the potential of a change, blinded by the lack of responsibility, blinded by the lack of support. And now all of a sudden you're tired of not having what you need. And as soon as you tell somebody that you have not been the person that I have needed you to be, you have not been who you said you would be, you have not lived up to your end of the bargain, they were blindsided, or they will be blindsided. And little turns are starting to come through next. The energy that we've been in has been about pushing things into place for the long term. Some of us, we are aware that we've just pushed a lot of things into place. We've just made a lot of changes. And now we're about to be aware of the long term. For some people, they've been dealing with their own pushing things into place. And as we get into more of February, that they too will be aware of the long term, but not necessarily in the same way as what everybody was dealing with whenever they were moving it around you. Just like you won't necessarily be aware of everything that's going on that's been moving around everybody else. But a lot of where we're going next has a very long-term effect. Long-term knowledge, long-term speaking, long-term branding, long-term energy. And there's one extra element that I want to get into that's taking us into the 5th. So I'll be fair about that. Do one extra thing. And that is after Mercury, because this really does happen at 11 p.m. So I'm getting this to 11:30. Oh, as soon as Mercury goes into Aquarius, Mercury hits that conjunction to Pluto. So again, there's something that speaks to recent events, recent uncovering, recent changes, recent enlightenment that's going to trigger how we handle this new shift in power, whether it's our own personal power, whether it's overcoming a past power struggle, whether it is lining things out with how we are able to solidify everything that's going on around us. There is a dynamic changing. And many of us are going to be very, very aware that we are closing something out by the end of this week. Even if you don't realize it on Monday, when this week is starting, I'm warning you that we're coming to a closeout, even if it's just a mental closeout as we go through the energy of Sunday. We become far more mentally aware, I can't do this anymore. For some people, all of Sunday and all of the weekend is going to be about the mental energy, and the actions will come later. It'll be about the decisions, and the action or reactions will come later. But we've needed this last month to get to this point. We've needed those things to slide into place. We've needed those things to come to light and come to the surface. We've needed these changes in our momentum so we can be seen, so we can be heard, so we can take those steps in this trajectory. We've needed it. There's a lot of energy from this last week that's transitioning us into this week. And there's a lot of energy that's going to start to really be understood and expressed and known as we continue into February. And I will cover more of that whenever I do the February month ahead video. But we've been transitioning and getting new things going for a while. New little habits, new little ways of doing things, new little twists and turns, whether it's been good or negative. We've all been doing something a little new, little tweaking, a little fine tuning. Some of us have been big fine tuning. But we're all going into a new long-term direction. And again, I'll cover more of that as I get into the February month ahead video. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the subscriptions. Again, if you want to do a Facebook Live with me, join me on Monday or Thursday evening this week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll be on Facebook. Do the mixture of astrology and tarot cards, so that's always great for people. I like to start with astrology and then go into the tarot cards, but it is what it is for everybody. And then if you're wanting to book a reading with me, again, these are the last few days of the one-on-ones being on special, $20 for 30 minutes or $35 for an hour. But aside from that, I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. I'll talk to everybody very, very soon, and subscribe.